This legislation is what is used to avoid cyberbullying from getting out of hand or getting to an advanced situation that becomes hostile for the individual, for the complainant. And that is the protected disclosure. So watch to the right through to the end of this video clip, and there'll be lots of tips of what you can do. What you will be actually witnessing in this clip, the evidence of my own personal profile. But there'll be lots of good tips to the end of this clip to help you think outside the box and how to, gather information, supporting evidence for yourself, for your case. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's episode we will be continuing with my historical court case, and the evidence we will be focusing on today, rewinding back to 2010, and it is the protected disclosure application. And so I will be putting up a few applications in this episode. I've removed the names of individuals because I don't see the relevance of it at this stage, but I will be leaving all the rest of the other details on the letter, just so you can get a fair idea and confirmation that my channel, everything you are actually viewing, is actually after the fact evidence. And it is my story, interpreting it in my own words. So I've got a few notes, and if I look down, it's because I am referring to my notes. This evidence is vital to my case because this is like the beginning of when I first suspected that of the privacy breaches that was happening in my life, in my private life, at this point in time. So this evidence is vital because it is my personal profile, and if should anything happen to an individual, all these sort of issues are taken into consideration. But that's why it's actually vital that you take responsibility for your own personal profile, because in reality, no one really knows your footsteps and your personal journey other than you, because you were in it. I won't be able to go on every single thing, because it's quite deep, but I've just selected a few things just so you can get a fair idea of what is a protected disclosure, what is the purpose of a protected disclosure, and what you can do as an individual to collate evidence to support your case. Unfortunately, even though the risk of going through what I've gone through, where you've been subject to something way out of your control and basically outnumbered by an alliance, because it is an alliance, when things go against you, and you go through the setbacks, the sabotage, basically you feel isolated and enslaved in your circumstance. And so it does make a difference when you know the signs of you being personally attacked, because these sort of cyberbullying is very hard to prove and they're actually very dangerous to go through, because you're dealing, with an environment of where your whole environment, the hostility, whether it be in public or within your private circumstance, whether it be at work or wherever you go, it's vital not to ignore the hostility and the suspicion of people being where they shouldn't be, but the things that they are a reason of belief. So when these things started happening to me, because I've had the advantage and the knowledge and the experience in my personal life and in my work environment, I learned all about what the laws surrounding privacy breaches. So when things started happening to me, I knew immediately they were serious privacy breaches, even though everyone went along with it, pretended like a joke. But I don't see playing games with anyone's life. I don't take breaking the law as far as privacy breaches are concerned lightly. And so if you've been watching my case, you'll understand why, because it is a real true case. When I realized that I was going through serious privacy breaches within my work environment at the time, the first thing I did was I decided to I need to find out, what applications I can use that my company use for complaints, to address any form of bullying, health and safety, human rights and stuff like that. So every single company, whether it be a government agency or any company that is a public service, they all have to have some kind of system where individuals can alert the appropriate people to make sure that these things aren't happening within their workplace, because the problem is if you ignore them, it can get out of hand, and unfortunately if something becomes really serious, it puts the company at risk. So that's why it's important everyone knows what a breach is and what laws to use when these things take place. So that is what I did when I realized about the privacy breaches, and they just kept happening. They didn't stop, they just keep happening. And I, because I was such a very private person, I just minded my own business. I knew these things were happening, and what was actually happening to me within my workplace, I knew it was wrong, but I had no choice but to go through it. But in saying that, I knew I was also in a very serious set of circumstance, because it was definitely an alliance was starting to form. This meeting was by consent by 4 parties, and the meeting was on or about, let me have a look, on or about September or October of 2015. And in this meeting, we went in there and we discussed a little bit more about the investigation. But I felt that I won't be playing all of this video clip. I will just take out a few things from this video clip with what actually happened in this meeting.
Take some notes of our conversation. Look, first of all, thanks for calling in at short notice. So Mina, can I know, Glenn, that you've got my letter, but Mina, can I just confirm that you've received my letter dated the 25th of September?
Yes, I've got it in front of me.
In my letter, I've set out in some detail the reason that I'm considering suspending you, Mina, from your employment. And at the heart of it is my genuine concern about both your health and well-being and the health and well-being of your work colleagues. And I've emphasised that in paragraph 10 of my letter.
So I had to sort of like start building a case, which I did. But at this time, the alliance had slowly built up.
And also in paragraph 11, I've set out my concern that there's a risk that if you return to work while the investigation is still underway and hasn't been completed, given the allegations made about the behaviours of members of the public, there's a risk of confrontation with members of the public. Go over a couple of things. Firstly, to reiterate the purpose of this meeting. And the purpose of the meeting is to consider the possibility of suspending you, Mina, from your employment on full pay until the current investigation has been completed. So I just want to emphasise that this is not a meeting to determine the outcome or make decisions on the investigation itself.
Thank you.
It's a meeting to consider the possibility of suspending you on full pay from your work until the investigation has been completed.
So the first thing I did was I looked on my company's contract and find out all the things on the website, what process I can take to start lodging complaints. So that is what I did. And at this time, when I was working for the organisation that I was working for at the time, it was the protected disclosure application. So some of the applications I will be putting on this video clip so you can all get a fair idea of what a protected disclosure application should look like. But in saying that, every company, they will have their own form of how they do their complaint system. The Protected Disclosure Act is what you use, that every company, government agencies use. And I think it's really vital, whether you're an employee or a member of the public, that you get yourself familiar yourself around these laws. Because if you're behind that person, if you're the person who is supposed to be authorizing these laws, and it doesn't do the other person a favor, and you don't do yourself any favors if you be biased, prejudice, or take sides. You're not paid to judge an individual. You're paid to do to abide to the law yourself, and to make sure that the decision you make at the time is correct.
Just to ask you a couple of things. How long is planned for the investigation to keep on going at this stage?
Well, they're at an advanced stage. So the interviews have been completed. Could be 3 or 4 weeks at the outside. I would think 4 weeks at the outside, but about 3 or 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, I would think. I'm the decision maker. So I'm not the decision maker in respect of the investigation.
Okay.
Doesn't have authority or delegated authority to suspend from employment.
And to date, how long have you been off, Mina?
Since end of July, almost 2 months.
2 months. So
Or 2 months.
Mina's been off on special leave. Is there any reason why that can't continue for another 4 weeks?
Are you suggesting that as an alternative?
I'm just asking why you've decided to change from the special leave to the suspension.
Oh, now, sorry, I've just been prompted here. Now, my understanding is that offered or suggested an extension continuation of special leave, and it was declined. Hence, the matter coming to me to consider suspension on leave. So that's my understanding of why we're having this meeting. The continuation of special leave on pay is an option, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. My apologies if I've added to that confusion. I think we did have a conversation, or I had a conversation, and possibly. The problems in continuing for Mina to be off, continuing to be off on special leave, in terms of being away from the workplace, and that it was if the alternative was being in the workplace or on special leave, that at a certain point it would be better for her to be back working. And we had that conversation, but the suspension wasn't. I didn't understand that was in relation to the special leave still being available.
Right.
I understood that certain point in terms of the amount of special leave that he could give.
Okay. Well, look, special leave, continuation of special leave on pay is definitely an option, and I'm quite open to consideration of that, if that's what you want to propose as an alternative.
Yes, well, definitely, as opposed to suspension, because of the the inherent assumptions that come with suspension.